Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Today is a special episode in my series on artificial intelligence, and today's guest is Dr. Sindhu Joseph, founder of CogniCor. Some of the past guests in this series have included Jeff Woods of the AI-Driven Leader, Farbad Nozad of Kashmir AI, and Cormac Murphy of Cash Tech Advisors. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, my guest today, Dr. Sindhu Joseph, CEO and founder of wealth management AI startup CogniCor. CogniCor's copilots are indispensable allies of growth-minded advisors and RIA firms. CogniCor Copilot enables advisors and firms to personalize and scale effortlessly, navigating client review meetings, client servicing workflows, and discovering actual insights from client and advisor interactions. Dr. Joseph has a PhD in artificial intelligence and has co-authored over 6 patents and was chosen as the top 10 to watch in 2023 by wealthmanagement.com. Sindhu, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Thank you so much, Rich. Very excited to be here. Hello, everyone.
I'm excited for you to be here, for our guests to hear from somebody like you, PhD, patents, and everything. So for those who haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Sindhu, let's understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
So CogniCor is a really custom built for the wealth industry. It is a copilot solution helping financial advisors who are the primary distributors for managing your wealth in terms of understanding their customers, their clients really well, insights, and also managing all of the operational efficiency aspects like managing the account maintenance activities like onboarding customers, account opening, and things like that. So that's what CogniCor is focused on. But let me give you a kind of 360 level view of what we are trying to achieve as in terms of the vision. So CogniCor was started because as a background, I have traveled pretty much across 3 continents extensively. And one of the things that I have seen across this, and I live in San Francisco today, is the wealth gap between the rich and the poor. And when I studied this, one of the things that I realized is it's not because we don't work hard enough. Everybody works in 2-3 jobs, especially in the US, and they make a lot of money. But the reverse is not true for everyone, which is making money, putting money to work for us. And that is the gap between the wealthy and the poor. So I feel like, the exposure and access to wealth, how to manage it, is one of the critical factors in trying to understand, how you can, put money to work for you and create lasting wealth. So CogniCor is an attempt to scale financial advisors to reach more households because they only cover around 30% of the US population. And so how can we reach more households, and how can we deliver advice, the crucial financial advice that is needed for young people, for people who are below the mass affluent, which is the financial advisors, the threshold for managing wealth. So how can we expand to those populations? So I think AI is the answer to it, and really AI can help financial advisors scale and reach more people. So that's really the vision of CogniCor. So how can we democratize the access to wealth?
I love it. So is it safe to say we share a similar vision? If you give more time back to the advisor, away from the mundane, trivial, repetitive tasks, they can actually do their best work, go out and spend time with their clients. Is that what your thinking is as well?
Yeah, that is one, definitely one aspect of it. Financial advisors also focus a lot on, providing, and they pride themselves in providing personalized care, personalized attention, and personalized advice. So I think AI can really fundamentally support that process. Like imagine, financial advisor, you have a conversation with, one of your clients a few months back, and you talked about the client's pet named, Tixie. And so in a few months later, like, you are having that conversation and you want to ask about how is Tixie doing? But you don't remember the name of the pet. So, AI can actually bring not only like, what is the what are their investment priorities long term for the client, but also these kind of like, very simple but very important relationship enabling kind of information in the context of that conversation to the forefront. So you can actually have all of this personalization, like more bonding created using AI. Imagine this as kind of somebody is a personal assistant looking over your shoulder and prompting you the right way to kind of do things.
So I kind of think of this as if you ever see images of the president of the United States walking with his team and getting notes passed. Now this is who you're meeting right now. Do you think the Copilot's going to work that way? Is it going to intuit, oh, you're having a conversation with this phone number, which is this account in your CRM, which has these things. Hey, don't forget to ask about the dog. Or is it more the advisor has to say, what's the dog's name? Or should I ask about how's it going to work?
Yeah. Yeah. It is more proactive. Like, so for me, personalization means like, understanding the, having the knowledge of the customer. So we actually pour through a lot of historic information, all of the interaction data, like, meeting notes, email communications, phone transcripts, plus the, whatever information there in the CRM. So we pour through every single bit of it and, have a summary of the client information, which might include that, the dog's name, and enable it for the advisor in a proactive manner so that they don't have to, remember to ask you this question, but it is there when they need it, when they are talking to that particular client. So delivering that in the context and knowing the, information about the customer and knowing also the, regulations and things like that. So all of these three parts are part of the personalization. And I think that's how we should kind of remember or, deliver personalization to clients.
Okay. I want to ask how this works, but I want to ask, my mind's jumping ahead. Like I'm imagining I have an earbud and now the computer's telling me, hey, they mentioned a 529 plan last time you talked, find out if they did it or not, or ask them if they're ready to move forward. Like actually talking to you, kind of like professionals on stage have somebody talking to them in their background. Do you think that will happen or is it really just screen prompts?
Yeah, I think it is more like teleprompts, screen prompts. The reason is like, if somebody is really talking on your like, ears, it becomes distracting because you're having an engaging conversation. So we do like, advisors can choose to do this, 30 minutes in advance or like, a day in advance to prepare for the meetings. And it doesn't need to be like, associated with a meeting. Like, as you the great thing about this is like, as you go into your office in the morning, you get a list of proactive recommendations saying that, this is the market insights for today or for this month. And some of your customers are impacted out proportion way because of these market insights. Let's say like, there is some Chinese tariffs that has been introduced and some of this portfolio is impacted. And these are the clients that might, feel bad about it, or you want to kind of, rebalance. So, take a look at this. Now you can choose to kind of reach out to this client or send an email or like, rebalance or do whatever those things. So it is more of a proactive, like, I don't need to keep all of this in mind. Like, it will tell me when things happen. When, clients are ready for RMD distribution, it would tell me that, okay, these two clients are like, coming up for RMD in the next 3 months, you better talk to them. So, so that's kind of the like, way that it should work. And highlighting the opportunities, like, there is a 529 plan set in place, but there is also a tax optimization opportunity if you contribute 3,000 more to that plan. So that is something that we would kind of propose to you. So it need not be like, in real time in that meeting, but we would also do that during that meeting.
Okay, two things. So first of all, I've been to a couple of roundtables recently, and the topic of how long it takes an advisor to prepare for a meeting was a big one. Like hours and hours and hours of their week going into just prep. So are you foreseeing this as just shrinking that prep time down to nothing? Or just to reading a brief versus having to go do the research?
I think very much. So on average, we save customers 3.5 hours on a daily basis
Wow.
to both prep for the meetings, but also to prioritize, because prioritization is one of the key aspects. Like if you have 100 customers, like, do you want to keep all of this, like, in on top of your mind, or like, let AI do that for you, and make sure that, you are also delighting your customers by knowing that, okay, I was supposed to do that, and I'm doing that proactively and delighting my customers.
So are you sure I can't use it in my fintech? I'm not a financial advisor anymore. I mean, I want this.
Unfortunately, this is like, we can use our our platform to pretty much all of the use cases, but this is a custom built workflows designed for financial advisors. So like, you might want to think about switching your job to financial advising.
I used to be.
One of the, this is very exciting, because one of the partners, when I was presenting this tool, they said, like, I wish I had this in my industry. Financial advisors seem to be extremely spoiled.
I mean, nowadays, 20 years ago when I was an advisor, I would give up a left arm for this. This is incredible stuff. My other question I want to ask was, you're thinking about it as preparing you ahead of time. Do you foresee it being a real-time prompt in my Zoom meeting when I'm on call, seeing things kind of fill in like a chat window and flow, and oh, they just said this, let's bring that up. Do you see a real-time interaction as well?
Yeah, we do have that real-time interaction, not for advisors, but for the home office team. So if an advisor is calling in, then like, we have a real-time transcription and prompting, like, if advisor comes up with a question, we have the response prompted to the agent so that they can, share it with the advisor, and also real-time analysis of sentiment. And then, like, if it is really going bad, like, we would show the sentiment going bad, bad, worse, and press a panic button. So, like, this is where you need to bring in your manager and things like that. So there is that happening internally for, home offices. For advisors, very much the technology is there. I'm not sure, like, advisors are, ready enough to have this handled in real time. Because for contact center agents, it's their, like, job to kind of handle calls and 10 other things at the same time. So they are experts in doing that. For an advisor, they are relationship people. They want to kind of fully be engaged in that conversation. So and they also need to, like, make sure the recommendations that we are providing is, like, they are ultimately fiduciary responsibilities belonging to them. So instead of blurting out everything that the AI is saying, they probably want to do a kind of thought through process around it. So because of these reasons, we are not yet putting this in front of real time advisor meetings, but it is very much possible we are doing that for the internal teams.
Well, I suppose you also face a compliance challenge, because if you're having an AI interact within a phone conversation or Zoom call video, you may be considered recording, and recording laws vary by state and compliance department, right? That's not a trivial thing to overcome, I would imagine. Have you had pushback from compliance on any of this?
Yeah, usually there is, like, the interesting thing is nobody knows for sure, like, what is the regulation going to be around AI recording calls. And so people tend to kind of be in all extremes, like, starting with, on one side, I don't want any AI to sit in my calls too. I am recording the video, and I can even go back to every single bit of that video to kind of, know that what I'm talking to in that particular instance.
Yeah.
So nobody has a clear answer to it. We on being a little bit more conservative on the compliant to comply with all the regulations. We don't usually record the audio. We transcribe in real time. So the transcription is the only document that is kind of produced as an after fact. And this one we would, have stored in warm compliant storages and things like that to make sure that it is recorded. It is a trail. So some advisors have concerns about having that, trail being left behind. So, if there is questions, they can always go back to this transcript. So there is, but I think it is kind of coming anyway. So you can't get around the fact that there is going to be note takers. There's going to be transcriptions done. So it is going to be the future. So be prepared.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about adoption, but I want to start backwards a little further. You have a PhD in this area. I don't know very many people who have that. In fact, you may be the only one I know who has that. You were probably doing this when it wasn't cool. And so you suffered through the challenges of, is this going to manifest into something or not? And so take us through kind of how you stayed involved through the hard times of what AI represented versus what it was versus now, and where you see it going and why people are or are not adopting it. Can you give us some of that background?
Yeah, definitely. So it kind of goes back to my childhood. It's kind of surprising to say that, but as a child, one of the things that I was very, very curious was how human intelligence works. And how, of course, the big questions on, where did we come from, how all of these things works, how does the nature around us work? And these questions were very, very, kind of very fascinating for me. And some of my relatives used to say that this kid is philosophizing life too much at this stage. So that
Go
was
have fun, Sindhu. Stop thinking so much.
Yeah, so I was always fascinated by that. But I left it at that. And when I was in college, I was introduced to a topic of artificial intelligence, where you could, create intelligence artificially, which was kind of, my mind meet the persona that I really want to. And so it became an instant love affair for me. So after that, I have never looked back. I knew that this is what I wanted to do because, it gives me a facility to kind of experiment with intelligence and create intelligence if possible, so that we can understand our own intelligence better. So that was kind of my academic curiosity. It had nothing to do with, I can change the world with it, but it was more like, I am extremely fascinated with this field. So I also, I was quite lucky in my first job. I didn't have any AI training as such, but curiously, they were starting a research lab, and I was one of the first interns to be hired in that lab, and their focus was AI. And so I got, almost willingly or unknowingly dipped into AI, and I started working on it for around 5 years. And I realized, okay, this is the field that I want to kind of deep dive into, and then started my PhD. I never thought when I was doing my PhD that I would use this title so much as I use it today. It was kind of like, I'm doing something that is exciting for me. But now to say that I'm a PhD in artificial intelligence it seems to give me that, differentiating edge.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but it did go through a lot of troubling times. We were ashamed to say that, we are working on AI. So we would mumble and say, okay, we are working with AI. and because everybody's, in their mind was thinking that it's a failed technology and it doesn't work. I was more working on a concept called multi-agent systems, where multiple autonomous agents can collaborate and accomplish a task. and there were, groups and organizations and societies of norms that was constructed around it. So all that was very fascinating, but nobody adopted it in real life. And now there is this agentic framework that is, very kind of a fancy topic, the next hyped thing. We worked on it, I think, 10 years back. I think it's all coming back, and it's very exciting to see that all coming around. But the biggest surprise, even for me as a researcher, was when we were working on machine learning algorithms like convolutional neural networks and BERT algorithms and so on. We kind of never had a sense that it always had trouble in terms of going beyond certain accuracies. And we never thought that if you exponentially increase the data that is used to train these algorithms, the results would be dramatically different.
So wait, you're saying you didn't anticipate that more data would make it better?
We did anticipate a linear increase in performance,
but not exponential increase.
Yeah, so it was it is natural to think that the more data, the better the performance. So that is kind of a linear kind of increase. And so we thought, okay, we can increase by a billion parameters, a million parameters, and things like that. But we never thought that or focused on the fact that, okay, you add a billion or a trillion parameters, then the performance would be exponential, that you would actually be able to understand natural language and predict it in a way that as LLMs are doing. So that was a pleasant surprise and extremely exciting surprise for even personally for me, because I didn't think that that would happen. It was not possible at that moment, but yeah.
It is remarkable. Just think about a Google search and how many websites and information it has to go through to give you results in 0.13 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you see these large language models come out and it gives you results super fast. And it's incredible to me how much it can process. And I'm thinking, I understand hardware and software to a degree. It's super impressive that it works. I've built my own software that I thought it's going to be too slow, and it comes out and it works. It's fast enough. Keep going. This is fascinating.
Yeah. So even as an engineer, you would kind of OpenAI, and I guess part of the credit goes to BERT algorithms from Google. So they all really anticipated that really exponential increase in data could really bring exponential results. So amazing that they had the capacity to do that, and they went ahead and did, and the results are just amazing. From a predictability standpoint, large language models are language prediction models where you are actually predicting what the most probable next word or next sentence that is going to be. But the ability to do that can really change industries the way we live. It's amazing to see that.
Yeah. So I have been at a roundtable about AI, and I saw and experienced that most of the people who went there, they're leaders in our industry, didn't actually play with AI themselves. They weren't really personally adopting it. They wanted their companies to. They talked about how their companies were going to adopt it or make use of it. What do you think that is? Is that a human thing that we just don't have the time or the interest, or we don't think we should dabble with, others should? Why is it taking a while for the adoption to happen?
I think it is accessibility is one big parameter for adoption. But given the ChatGPT is available and accessible to pretty much everyone, I'm not seeing why adoption is a big issue. You should be adopting at least the ChatGPT version of it. I was surprised to see that, when I talked to broker dealers, RIAs, they used to tell me that financial advisors are the last people to adopt anything new. And we did experience that personally as well when we were trying to sell our products. Nobody had heard of it. Oh, fascinating. Tell us when it comes out. We would say, okay, this is here working for others. You want to use it? they wouldn't believe that it exists. But when ChatGPT came out, there were a big section of the community that really went ahead and then started adopting AI, and the trend reversed. Like firms used to push this technology down the throat of financial advisors. Then they started adopting all kinds of things like ChatGPT for client insights.
Yeah.
And putting all of those sensitive information to ChatGPT and getting results. Then they had to, and the firms had to say, like, wait, don't yet adopt this. Like we are going to put in place regulated proper technologies for you to use. So there were a cry from the advisors saying that we want these, like we want meeting note takers, we are going to use Zoom and things like that. So we saw a reversal of trend in one of the toughest adoption groups. But I do understand, like, in a CEO's life or like, a big organization, the CXO level people, they have their priorities set aside somewhere else. But even in their jobs, in my own job, like, I would say I was able to increase my performance by 50% just using ChatGPT by my side. Like, if
I went through a challenge with e-signature. I started showing e-signature to customers and firms in 2003.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like, this is so obvious. This is so necessary. And everybody's like, wow, that's so great. Not going to buy it. Wait, why? I credit the adoption of e-signature to grocery stores. Because when the signing tablets started showing up at the checkout stand, and we all started signing for our own personal interest, our own personal consumer behavior and benefit, it became standard and adopted. And then UPS started showing up at our door. Here, sign our little tablet. And you got more of that consumer engagement. And so what I'm saying is the leaders of these big companies are consumers just like you and me. And it's when they consume it personally. And this is why ChatGPT made such an impact, because now it was accessible to consume personally. You didn't have to have an API. You didn't have to think to go try it. Everybody else is trying it, right? So I think the adoption curve is highly based on personal experience, and consumerism makes that more easy to adopt. And that's why we're seeing more and more people come around to it. What do you think people should know about AI you're a PhD, like you have studied this. You have lived, breathed this for I don't know how many years, long time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What do you think we should know that we don't know?
That's a big open-ended question.
Well, maybe to the power of how do we adopt it better? Maybe to that side of things. I don't know.
I would say like a couple of things. One is on the cautious side in terms of your data, because like AI is also capturing a lot of your data. So like how do you make sure that if you are using a free version of ChatGPT, then like be sure that all of what you are typing into ChatGPT will be used to train the ChatGPT algorithms, which means that in the next iteration, your data would be embedded into the ChatGPT knowledge or brain, and it will come out for all of the people to use. So that is one thing that, how when you interact with the different AI tools, you need to know, like, how much you are in control of your data, because if you have if you want to have control over your data, you need to be conscious about what tools you are using. The second is when you are using AI or consuming the information, you also should know that many of this are trained with the information that is available on the internet, which is biased sometimes, which is like so. You would see this trend more and more. Like there is a kind of AI generated junkyard that is going to be created, and AI is going to learn from it, and so it is going to be a loop that is getting repeated. So that is going to happen. But those cautious tales apart, I think there is an exciting time to be around. As I was mentioning earlier, like I look at everything in life also from a broader philosophical angle. So when I look at the human evolution, like we were foragers in the beginning, like kind of meant to walk around, hunt for food, and have life in a very carefree style. When the Industrial Revolution came around, we became a cog in the wheel. We thought that that's our identity. We have to go to work from 8 to 5 and kind of be that repetitive workforce, mindlessly doing the same repetition of tasks. And majority of us are continuing to do that today. I feel like AI is going to liberate us from that cog in the wheel. So
Yeah.
we are going to get our time back. And this will go through a lot of social disruption in the sense of we may not have enough work or job or tasks to occupy us throughout the day. And we would have time back in our hands. What do we do with that time is up to us. We can do a lot of things, exciting things. So I think that is going to be the biggest next exciting things that is going to happen, not just the technological evolution of AI, but the social aspects of how AI is going to influence the way we human race live. And I feel it's a liberation for all of us. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen on that.
So two things. One, I want to clarify. You absolutely have to be careful with what data you feed to an LLM like ChatGPT. But ChatGPT, if you pay for it, says they will not train their model with your data. So there are ways to make sure that your data is secure, right? But the second thing, this notion that we're going to give time back, I think, is a fascinating one. And I would love to give people their time back. But as a capitalist society, we're going to say we're paying for somebody to work 40 hours a week. If they can get all the job done in 2 hours, we'll give them another 38 hours of work, won't we? So how do we change that mindset to say, we've made your job so easy, you only have to work 20 hours a week, but we'll pay you for 40? That's going to be an interesting challenge too.
Yeah, I don't think the companies need to pay 20 hours. They only need to pay that 2 hours that the person worked. But as a society, we need to decide, how everybody is fed, or, there is some universal basic income concepts that are floating around. So we should all really think about how we can actually make sure the society still functions. And also maybe if we have more time in our hands, we can also utilize for great things. Also for, really, we have humans has a tendency to create problems for ourselves. So we can channel it in different ways. So we need to think about it. But I think it's a huge opportunity for us to rethink and realign our priorities in a way that we haven't done in a huge number of years.
Yeah, I agree. Wow. Okay, I have to wrap this up because I want to keep talking to you about this. Maybe you'll have to come on the show again next year. So before I get to my last question, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
So I'm on the only social media that I use is LinkedIn. So you can find me there on LinkedIn. You can also reach to my company website, CogniCor.com. So all the information is available, how to reach out if you want to kind of set up a demo, that's available there as well. So, I would look forward to, getting some comments on this, as well as, people reaching out to get demos of the product as well.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
That's a tough question to answer. So as I was mentioning, I have traveled a lot in my, life here. I was born and brought up in India, traveled across India for quite some, pretty much all of the areas in India, as well as lived around 10 years in Europe, traveled across Europe before coming to the US. I'm based in San Francisco around 7 years now. I have seen one of the things that motivates me a lot is the wealth disparity, as I was mentioning, the between the poor and the rich. So the reason I started this company was to give back in some ways to the society, where I was nurtured, was given an opportunity. How can we give back to nature? I'm also very, very focused on vision style leadership person, how and I'm very connected to nature because I grew up on a farm very well, embedded into the nature. So I want to give back to nature. So my leadership style is bring people around this vision, motivate them, and give them facilities and ownership to perform. So I would say kind of symmetrically opposite to an Elon Musk kind of style. I know that he's very successful. There are a lot of successful leaders like that. My style is a very vision-oriented style.
Yeah.
I think I learned that from my parents. They have been very innovative, very entrepreneurial, moved across different places, started some things on their own, and kind of showed me that style. So I'm immensely grateful for them for me to think out of the box and care for the fellow human beings and nature around us. So that's one shout out that I want to really make sure that I place there. But also, there are a lot of shortcomings in my leadership style, and as well as how I kind of approach the business world. I'm not a business person per se. Came squarely from an academic perspective with a kind of a very strong willpower to kind of achieve certain things. So that means that I was someone who didn't make sure that I keep fostering relationships, and in business, relationships are very important. So one of my mentors, Atul Kamra, he kind of forced me to keep track of relationships and make sure that you are fostering relationships. I still find it really hard to do that, but I know that it's extremely important, and I also want to kind of give a big shout out to him for guiding me in terms of these are some of the things that you should keep in top of your mind, even if that's not your nature.
Yeah. Sindhu, one of the things I really appreciate about you is that you're looking at yourself with clear lenses and truth, and recognizing weaknesses so that you can have others help you with those. And that's such I think that's such a strong leadership quality. And it's going to carry you forward. All right, we got to wrap this up. I want to give a big thank you to Dr. Sindhu Joseph, founder of CogniCor, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Sindhu's website at CogniCor.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for the future episodes of The Customer Wins. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sindhu.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to chat with you.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.